Welcome back to English Cat. Look at the title of this video again. Listening is the only skill you need to become fluent. Right now, I can hear your brains buzzing with skepticism. You're thinking, English Cat, you've finally had too much catnip. That's impossible. What about speaking? What about grammar books? What about vocabulary flashcards and writing essays? You think I'm exaggerating to get you to click on this video. I am not. If your goal is true fluency, effortless, natural, automatic English fluency, then I am telling you today that speaking, writing, and studying grammar rules are a waste of your time until you have mastered listening. I know, that sounds radical. It goes against everything your high school English teacher told you. They told you to practice speaking from day one. They forced you to read out loud when you didn't know how to pronounce the words. They made you memorize verb tables until your eyes watered. And let me ask you, how did that work out? Are you fluent yet? Do you feel confident? Or do you still freeze up when a native speaker talks to you? If the traditional methods worked, you wouldn't be here watching a cartoon cat on YouTube. Today, I am going to relieve you of a massive burden. I am going to give you permission to stop doing the things that you hate doing. I am going to prove to you, using logic, biology, and a bit of feline wisdom, why your ears are the only tool you need to unlock the English language. Settle in, get comfortable, clean your ears out, because everything you thought you knew about learning English is about to change. Why do we struggle so much with languages? Cats spend most of their day sleeping, observing, and listening. Humans spend most of their day rushing around and making noise. In language learning, humans have an obsession with output. Output is speaking and writing. It's producing language. There is a massive misconception in the language learning world that practice makes perfect. So students think that to get better at speaking, they must speak more. They force themselves into conversation exchanges before they are ready, sweating with anxiety, desperately trying to translate from their native language in their heads before opening their mouths. This is backward. It is completely ineffective. Imagine you want to learn to play a complex piece of classical music on the piano. You have never heard the song before. You cannot read sheet music, but your teacher sits you at the piano and says, "Okay, start playing. Practice makes perfect." You would just mash the keys randomly. It would sound terrible. And if you kept doing it for 100 hours, you wouldn't be playing Mozart, you'd just be really good at mashing keys randomly. You would be cementing bad habits. You cannot output what you have not input. Input is listening and reading. It is language coming into your brain. When you try to speak before you have listened enough, you are not practicing English, you are practicing the art of frantic translation. You are stitching together broken grammar rules you memorized in a panic. Speaking doesn't teach you the language. Speaking only tests what you already know. If you don't know it yet, speaking won't help you find it. The reason you feel stuck, the reason you translate in your head, the reason you make the same grammar mistakes over and over again is not because you haven't spoken enough. It's because you haven't listened enough. Your brain doesn't have a big enough database of correct English sounds and patterns to draw from. Let's look at the masters of language learning, the only beings on the planet with a 100% success rate for fluency. Babies. Think about a human baby. Let's call him Timmy. When Timmy is born, he doesn't speak English or Japanese or Spanish. He speaks cry. Does Timmy's mother sit him down at 6 months old with a textbook and say, "Okay, Timmy, today we are learning the present perfect tense. Repeat after me"? No. For the first year to 18 months of Timmy's life, what does he do? He listens. He does absolutely nothing but listen. He watches faces. He hears sounds. He absorbs the rhythm, the intonation, and the melody of the language around him. This is called the silent period. Timmy's brain is a supercomputer designed for pattern recognition. He is taking in millions of data points every day. He starts to realize that whenever the large, hairy thing walks into the room, his mom makes the sound dog. After 1,000 repetitions, his brain locks that pattern in. He isn't stressed. He isn't trying to speak. He is just letting the language wash over him. Then, one day, usually around 1 year old, the bathtub overflows. His brain has absorbed so much input that a piece of output accidentally spills out. He points at the hairy thing and says, "Dog," and everyone cheers. Now, when Timmy says dog, is his pronunciation perfect? No, it's cute and broken. Does his mother correct him? Does she say, "No, Timmy, look at my tongue position, it's an alveolar stop consonant"? No, she just smiles and says more language back to him. "Yes, that's the dog. It's a big dog, isn't it?" Timmy doesn't start speaking in full sentences until he has been listening for thousands of hours. He doesn't learn to read or write until he is 5 or 6 years old, long after he is already fluent in spoken language. Adult learners try to do the exact opposite. You try to read, write, and speak on day 1, and you treat listening as a secondary activity. You are trying to run a marathon before you can crawl. If you want to learn like a baby, you have to respect the silent period. You must respect the power of pure listening. There is a famous linguist and researcher named Dr. Stephen Krashen. If this channel had a human hero, it would be him. Dr. Krashen proved something called the input hypothesis. It basically says this: we acquire language in only one way, when we understand messages. That's it. We don't acquire language by memorizing grammar rules. We don't acquire language by drilling vocabulary lists. We acquire language when we listen to something or read something that is just slightly above our current level, and we understand the meaning. Think about your native language. When you are speaking to your friends, are you thinking about grammar rules? Are you thinking, "Okay, I need the subjunctive mood here because I'm expressing doubt"? Of course not. You just speak. It feels automatic. If someone makes a grammar mistake in your native language, you know it immediately. You don't need a textbook to prove it. You just feel it in your gut. It sounds weird. Where does that gut feeling come from? It comes from listening to millions of correct sentences over your lifetime. Your brain has built a statistical model of what your language is supposed to sound like. When you hear something that breaks that model, a red flag goes up. You cannot get this gut feeling from a grammar book. A book gives you knowledge about the language. Listening gives you the language itself. When you listen intensely, you are downloading the operating system of English directly into your subconscious. You are learning grammar without studying grammar. You are learning vocabulary in context, which is the only way words truly stick. You are learning rhythm, intonation, and humor. And here is the most magical part. If you listen enough, speaking will eventually take care of itself. When your brain is so full of correct English patterns that they are threatening to burst out of your ears, speaking becomes easy. It's no longer a translation task. It's just releasing what is already inside. If you can understand English perfectly, fast, natural speech, with all its slang and connected sounds, do you honestly think you wouldn't be able to speak it? Of course you would. Okay, English cat, you've convinced me. I'm going to stop stressing about speaking and I'm going to listen. But how? Do I just put on CNN and go to sleep? No, not all listening is created equal. If you want listening to be the only skill you need, you have to do it right. You need what I call radical listening. There are 4 rules you must follow. Rule number 1, it must be comprehensible, the 80% rule. This is the most important rule. If you listen to something and you only understand 20% of it, it is just noise. Your brain cannot find the patterns. It will tune out and you will fall asleep. I like sleeping, but not when we are working. The content needs to be comprehensible. This means you should understand the general message of what is going on, even if you miss some words. A good rule of thumb is the 80% rule. If you understand about 80% of what you hear, that is the sweet spot. You know enough to follow the story, but there is still 20% new information that your brain has to work to figure out from context. That 20% is where the learning happens. If you understand 100%, it's too easy. You aren't growing. If you understand 50%, it's too hard. You'll get frustrated. Find your 80%. Rule number 2. It must be compelling. The boredom trap. Our brains are designed to ignore boring things. It's a survival instinct. If you are listening to a textbook audio script about John and Mary going to the post office to buy stamps, your brain is going to shut down. It doesn't care about John and Mary's stamps. The content must be compelling. It has to be so interesting that you forget you are listening in a foreign language because you want to know what happens next. You need to listen to things you would listen to even if they were in your native language. Are you interested in cooking? Listen to English cooking podcasts. Are you interested in true crime, gaming, philosophy, cats? When you are genuinely interested, your brain opens up. Dopamine is released. The language sticks better. Don't torture yourself with boring materials just because they are labeled for learners. Rule number 3. The quantity must be massive. The bathtub principle. This is where most students fail. They underestimate the sheer volume of English required to become fluent. They listen to a 5-minute podcast twice a week and wonder why they aren't fluent in 6 months. Remember the baby? Thousands of hours before the first sentence. You need massive input. You need to fill the bathtub until it overflows. How much is massive? I'm talking about an hour a day minimum, ideally 2 or 3. Wait, don't panic. I don't mean sitting at a desk for 3 hours staring at a speaker. I mean filling the dead time in your life with English. When you are washing dishes, English in your ears. When you are commuting to work or school, English in your ears. When you are at the gym, walking the dog, folding laundry, English in your ears. We humans waste so much time doing mindless tasks. As a cat, I appreciate mindless tasks, but if you want fluency, you must weaponize this time. If you can steal 2 hours of dead time a day for listening, that's over 700 hours a year. That will transform your English. Rule number 4. Focus versus flow. Active versus passive listening. There is a debate about active versus passive listening. Passive listening is having English on in the background while you are doing something that requires deep concentration, like writing a report or doing complex math. This is mostly useless. It's just background noise. However, listening while washing dishes is different. Your body is busy, but your mind is free. You can focus on the audio. You need a mix of flow listening and focused listening. Flow listening is the massive quantity stuff. You're walking, you're listening to a podcast, you're getting the gist, enjoying the story. You aren't stopping to look up words. You are just letting the river of language flow over you. This builds your general intuition. Focused listening is what we do on this channel. You sit down for 10 or 20 minutes and you do nothing but listen deeply. You might listen to a short clip 3 or 4 times. You might read the transcript afterward to check what you missed. You are actively trying to notice the sounds, the way the words connect, the intonation. You need both, but the bulk of your time will be flow listening. So, if listening is the only skill, what does your new study plan look like? It looks a lot more relaxing than your old one. Step 1. Stop feeling guilty about not speaking. Seriously, stop it. Tell your friends, tell your teacher, tell yourself, I am in my silent period. I am gathering data. If you don't want to speak, don't speak. The pressure to speak before you are ready is the #1 cause of language anxiety. Remove the pressure. Step 2. Throw away the grammar drills. Stop filling in blanks in workbooks. It's boring and your brain hates it. If you listen enough, you will learn the grammar naturally. You will say things correctly because they sound right, not because you remembered a rule from page 45 of a textbook. Step 3. Become an obsessive hunter of compelling audio. Your main job now is finding things to listen to that you love and that you can mostly understand. Find podcasts, YouTubers, Netflix shows. Curate your own personal library of English input. Step 4. Use this channel as your listening gym. That's why I, the English cat, am here. I am here to provide you with that compelling, slightly above your level input. We will practice focused listening together. We will train your ears to hear the details that you usually miss. I know this sounds too good to be true. It sounds like I'm telling you that you can get six-pack abs just by watching people exercise on TV. But language isn't a muscle, it's a cognitive system. It's a pattern recognition game. By focusing only on listening, you are aligning your learning method with the biological reality of how your brain works. You are working with your brain instead of fighting against it with artificial drills and premature speaking. It requires patience. You won't be fluent next week. It takes time to fill the bathtub. But it is a much more enjoyable, relaxing, and ultimately faster road to fluency than the painful path of traditional study. Trust your ears. They know what to do. Give them enough high-quality English, and they will do the rest. Now, if you're ready to start this journey of radical listening, you know what to do. Curl up, get comfortable, and click on the next video on this channel. Let's fill that bathtub. I'm the English cat. Thanks for listening.